You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcast. Keep up with the latest episodes by downloading the Podbean app or stream episodes via our social media accounts. Search for Let's Talk Trio on Facebook or Instagram. This episode is sponsored by Student Access. Student Access, the leader in TRIO software. Student Access is an online database solution that allows TRIO programs to track their students' information, connect with students by text messages, streamline the APR, and work from anywhere, all online, with automatic updates for changes from the Department of Education. Their technical support team includes former TRIO staff and has over 50 years of combined experience working with TRIO. Make it easier to focus on your priority, the students. For more information and to request a free demo, visit their website at www.studentaccess.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-801-1232. That website again is www.studentaccess.com or 1-800-801-1232. Be sure to share your favorite episodes on your social media by tapping that share button. This is a great way to support the podcast. Now here's your host, Juan Rivas.
Thank you, Amelia, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, listener, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Trio. I am your host, Juan Rivas. In today's episode, we have Pablo Rosas, who is a current student at Colorado State University and participant of the Academic Advancement Center. Pablo is on the podcast to talk about his educational journey, his experience as a transfer student, deciding to attend Colorado State University, and what the future may hold for him. So coming up in just a bit, Pablo Rosas. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Angelica Villalpando, Rosario Riley, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Jaded Electronics, TrioJoblist.com, and Student Access. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the podcast. Head on over to Patreon and search for Let's Talk Trio. Choose one of 4 patron levels. You can support this podcast for as little as $1 a month. $1 a month does go a long way in supporting this podcast. If you own a business or a corporation and would like to sponsor this podcast, please email us at letstalktrio@gmail.com for details. If you would like to nominate a participant, staff, or alumni to be on the podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Again, a great episode featuring Pablo Rosas from Colorado State University's Academic Advancement Center. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, Trio Nation. My guest on the Let's Talk Trio podcast is a current participant of the Academic Advancement Center and will soon graduate from Colorado State University. In his free time, likes to snowboard, cook, and learn a little bit about investing. Welcome to the podcast, Pablo Rosas. Pablo, welcome.
Thank you so much, Juan, for the introduction. It's a pleasure being here on your podcast.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. The stress of finals is coming in.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was just out at an event for my other job at TILT.
Oh, yeah?
Which is the Institute for Learning and Teaching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were out there have a little party. I was playing some soccer, and now I'm a little out of breath.
Gotcha. I saw you walking in with a mug, so that makes 2 mugs that you get to walk away with because the AAC awarded you a mug because you're graduating. That must be, it's coming by very quickly, right?
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, and I'm super appreciative of what the AAC has done for me, and as well as TILT.
Awesome. So this semester has certainly flown by. You're about to graduate. As of this recording, you're about a week away. How are you feeling?
It feels a little surreal, but I also have, graduation. Well, I've been asked, how do you feel about graduating? And I'm like, I know it's coming, right. And I feel a little indifferent about it. It almost feels like just another event, but I know it's a big milestone.
It is. It is a huge milestone. I think that graduation doesn't really set upon you. It feels distant still.
until you walk across the stage and you receive your diploma. So by then, hopefully, more emotions follow that, or something else follows that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely do think that my parents are, I think, more excited than I am.
Definitely. For the audience, I have known Pablo for a little over a year now, and I can tell you that Pablo is very much your lifelong learner, and I also currently serve as your retention specialist. Can you talk to us a little bit about yourself, Pablo? What do you enjoy doing, and what have you liked most about living in Fort Collins?
Yeah, so as Juan mentioned, my name is Pablo Rosas, and I'm a first-generation Latino. I'll be the very first in my family to go to college and graduate. And yeah, I come from Western Colorado, around the Glenwood Springs area. So I'm from the little town of Newcastle. I say Glenwood Springs because it's a landmark that most people would know about.
Right.
And yeah, I came up here to Fort Collins about a year and a half ago, and I visited in Fort Collins on a transfer visit from the community college that I was attending, and I really enjoyed the CSU campus and just the overall like ambience and community that there is here.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite spot on campus?
I would probably say the Oval.
The Oval.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I know my first semester on campus or here at CSU, I spent at least 2 to 3 days at the Oval, like just sitting out there for an hour, just laying down on the grass. Or I guess when it was warm.
Yeah. Talk to us about your upbringing. What was that like for you?
So, for my upbringing, I am the oldest out of my siblings. I have 2 younger sisters. So a lot of responsibilities came onto me.
Right.
And it was definitely interesting because I was actually born in Reno, Nevada, and
oh wow.
The 2008 recession caused us to move over to Colorado. And yeah, that recession taught me a lot. I was just 7, 8 years old, and
wow.
From that age, I started learning about money. I was like, oh, okay, so we don't have a lot of money, and and it just put into perspective a lot of our expenses and rent, and just in general, everything associated with money, including the cost of maintaining the family car. And yeah, so the recession I'm not sure exactly why, but I know the recession was a terrible part or a terrible thing that happened to a lot of people here in the U.S., but it almost felt like a blessing for me. I know we as a family, we struggled a lot, and I know a lot of other people did, but that provided us the opportunity to move to Colorado.
Yeah.
And coming from the city of Reno, it's, in my opinion, I love Colorado way better. And although I have missed out on some opportunities coming from a small town, I have enjoyed the lifestyle, and it definitely humbled me a lot.
Right. Okay. Would it be accurate to say that your family valued education?
Oh, yes.
Or values education?
Yeah, they definitely do. From a young age, they were always telling me, college is your goal. Because, most let's say immigrant families think that they didn't get the opportunity to pursue their education. So then they want their children to be better than them. And the easiest way to do that is to pursue that education. For context, both of my parents only got to middle school education. They never got to high school. And like I mentioned, from that young age, they were always pushing me to think about college.
Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were little?
Honestly, no. I had no idea. And kind of what I mentioned from the 2008 recession, that caused me to, for lack of a better term, grow up at a young age. And I knew that I didn't exactly want to grow up because I'd be missing the fun stuff out of being a kid.
Right.
And yeah, like I never gave it much thought about what I wanted to be. But as I got into high school, we had a family tragedy, and that made me think more about college. And what was it, my junior year in high school, I decided like, I want to help people, and the way I think I can do that is to go to med school, become a doctor.
Okay. Did you automatically like school when you started?
Oh, definitely not. And to a certain extent, I still don't like school.
Even now that you're about to graduate, you're like, school.
Yeah. And I resonate with with a lot of students that school feels like a hassle, but it's a stepping stone to hopefully put us in the right direction about what we'd like to do with our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us about your middle school and high school years. What were they like for you?
Yeah, so my middle school, there really wasn't anything like huge that happened. Like, it's just like your average middle school story. Like, yeah, like, okay, I'm here in 5th grade, or for context, my middle school went through 5th through 8th. So I was here in 5th grade, middle school, and kind of just flew by. And looking back on it now, like, I kind of miss it. I remember some days in middle school, like, we'd have like a social studies class or a science class, and we'd just kind of like have fun or like watch Bill Nye.
Right.
And there really wasn't any sort of like curriculum per se. And going into high school is like, I guess when things started to change a little bit more.
Oh yeah? How
like,
so?
Like there was more like responsibilities about just thinking about the future, like just like the family security and all that. And a lot of taking care of my sisters. Yeah, that's something that I didn't mention about middle school. That I took care of my sisters a lot. Both of my parents worked.
Yeah.
And
so it fell on you as the older brother to look after the siblings and make sure that they were okay and all that.
Yeah, I definitely did. And yeah, it definitely pushed me to like kind of learn how to cook.
Oh, wow, okay. So that's where the cooking kind of comes in. You learned a lot of cooking. Is there a favorite dish that you like to cook or something that you specialize in?
You know, there was like the easiest thing that I would always make, and one of the most memorable things that I would do was just make like scrambled eggs with
nice.
With like ham. So huevos con jamón revueltos.
Oh yeah, that sounds delicious. So did your sisters kind of like were very like gravitated toward that food, and it feels like home for them?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. Right on. That's awesome. I didn't know that that's what you did for your families. Like you cooked, and that's why you still like to learn about cooking and all that. So I just recently picked up cooking. I think I shared with you in one of our mini meetings. Like I just recently started learning how to cook, and I have now learned how to appreciate the art form of cooking because it does take patience and skill.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, well, as I was cooking, like, I've learned, like, a few different ways of, like, how to cook eggs, because eggs are so versatile.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I experimented with was I saw, I think I was watching, like, the Food Channel, and Gordon Ramsay was on, and he was making...
Oh, had to be Gordon Ramsay.
he was making the scrambled eggs in a pot, and I was like, I've always used...
A skillet, right?
Yeah, like a skillet.
Like a skillet.
Yeah, so I was like, And he put like cream cheese in it.
What?
And
he was getting fancy with the eggs.
Yeah, it's like cream cheese. But yeah, then I tried it out, and it was definitely different than the regular scrambled eggs that I make. It was a lot more creamier and just lighter in general.
Lighter, okay. I'm gonna be honest. I've learned a lot of the recipes that I'm cooking for my kids through TikTok. Are you on TikTok at all?
You know, I am actually not on TikTok.
So you've resisted. You resisted.
Yeah, but I will admit that I am on Instagram, and a lot of the content that falls within TikTok eventually
it leaks over to Instagram. Absolutely.
Yep.
So as we were reflecting in your middle school, high school years, you were talking about responsibility and how that shifted in high school. Could you talk to us? Were you thinking about college while in high school?
Not too much.
Not
I know,
too much?
Well, ever since I was little, my dad was always telling me, like, hey, like, think about what you want to do. Like,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna be going to college,
Uh-huh.
and college never felt like an option to me. It was just something that I knew I was gonna have to do,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, my dad was always telling me like, hey, like, think about it, and I was like, yeah, like, I've thought about it just to like get him off my back,
Okay.
and like a little bit of like what I mentioned earlier, we had a family tragedy, and
Mm-hmm.
that led me to think more about what I'd want to do, and I wanted to help people, and the only way that I thought I could do that was going through med school and becoming a doctor.
So in that moment, you were thinking about, I got to go to med school. Were you thinking about these prestigious colleges that produce doctors?
hmm So, like the entire like I guess introduction to college, like my high school never really helped me out with that, and it's kind of like your average like first generation trope. Like you kind of have to go like figure it out yourself,
Yeah, that.
and that's what fell upon me, that I had to figure out. I remember the first time I ever filled out FAFSA. I think it took me like 6 or 8 hours, like just to fill it out, because I asked my counselors for help. They said they couldn't help me out, and I was
Really?
like, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, whatever. And the same thing didn't happen with the teachers, but I guess I never got around to asking the teachers, because what the counselors told me, I was like, oh, well, if they don't have time, then the teachers probably won't have time, so I guess I'll just do it on my own.
Yeah. So you really had to figure out the whole FAFSA thing, the whole applying for colleges thing on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely did. And one of the biggest things that resonates a lot with me with other first generation students is that lack of information. So it's more common knowledge now, but for those of you that don't know, there's the national and like state level. There's these two scholarships. There's a national level and then there's a state level. The national one is the Daniels scholarship, and the state level is the Betcher scholarship. And each of those grants you basically like a full ride to like any university, and that's with respect to whichever college, or not whichever college, but whichever scholarship that you end up winning. And as I was going through like thinking about college and all that, the information about those scholarships was never told to a lot of the students, and only a select group of individuals in my high school were told about these opportunities.
Oh, that seems very selective. Like done in, and I'm not trying to say malicious, but it's almost done with intent to close out those who could qualify.
Yeah, like I still have no idea like why it happened, and unfortunately it did happen, and I wasn't, by the time I found out about those scholarships, they'd already gone through at least 2 rounds of interviews, and it was already a long gone opportunity.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh yeah, it is what it is. And what I tell my sisters now, or my younger sister, or my oldest sister, she is 16 years old right now. She's a sophomore in high school, and I told her, if you ever need to know anything about college, tell me first. Like, I wouldn't rely on the counselors, because there definitely is some new counselors at the high school, but sometimes there will always be that lack of information.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah,
because that happened to me, I want to be the most informed as I can to prevent other people from going through that, and especially my sisters. Like, if I didn't have the chance to do that, I want them at least to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. As your graduation year for senior year approached, do you remember what you were feeling? What was going through your mind as you approached graduation in high school?
So approaching graduation, like, it kind of feels like what it kind of feel like for college right now.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like any other event.
Oh, really? Like,
And
so still very humble, very
Mhm.
not a big deal, but knowing it is a big deal.
yeah, definitely. And again, with my family, I do have an older cousin that did graduate high school,
Mhm.
but for my direct family, I would be the first one, and that was a big deal for them because
Yeah.
no one had ever done that, and just navigating all that. But with approaching graduation, by that time, I had already I'd already set my path on what to do after high school. So I decided to go on to a local community college called Colorado Mountain College, and I was fortunate enough to have gotten have the opportunity to apply to a lot of their scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
and with the amount of scholarships that I received, like all my tuitions, books, and fees were covered.
That's
And I was
amazing.
also able to receive a decent amount of refund checks.
That's amazing. So that was that the reason why you chose Colorado Mountain College, or was there more reasons to that?
A lot of it was like the financial aspect, because I already known that going to like a university like CSU and University of Northern Colorado, even like University of Colorado in Boulder,
Mm-hmm.
like you're gonna spend at least around $20,000 to $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing like my family circumstances, I'm like, I don't think I'm able to do that, because I don't want to put my family in a burden,
Right.
and like I know that we can't exactly afford to send one of us to college. So the way that I saw it is that I was like, okay, I can go to a community college and I still have the opportunity to go to a university after.
Mm-hmm.
So university isn't a lost opportunity.
All right. What was your experience like there at Colorado Mountain College? What did you like about it? What is something that really spoke to you, or what program did you follow?
Yeah, so at Colorado Mountain College, even back then, like I had no idea of like what to do for like a major.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about like medical school, I thought like, oh hey, there's an Associates of Science in Chemistry. Chemistry was easy enough in high school, so
Yeah.
I'll major in chemistry.
Okay.
And that led me to go through their program there. There's nothing like special, just your like general courses and all that, getting them out of the way. And my first semester there, one of the requirements for all degrees at Colorado Mountain College is you have to take a public speaking course. And in that public speaking course, it was one of the hardest classes that I ever took at that college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was, and that was mainly because of the professor. He was very, very strict
Oh, wow.
and very peculiar about his grading.
That is. Did it seem arbitrary, or did it just seem like they were always looking for something more specific about your speech?
Well, I think like his grading did have a point.
Okay.
Because in the grand scheme of things, all he was trying to do was try to get you to be a better public speaker, and it did. It helped me become. Oh, I'd like to say that I'm a pretty good public speaker because of that class. And without that class, if that class wasn't as difficult as that professor would have made it,
Yeah.
then I definitely would be way more afraid of public speaking.
How was the campus culture there at Colorado Mountain College? Did you enjoy it? Did you get to get yourself involved with a lot of activities? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So at that college, a little bit of context. So in high school, there was TRIO SSS.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And
right.
I I dabbled in some thoughts about joining TRIO SSS in high school, and I asked around, I asked my counselors,
Yeah.
and they told me, or I asked them, like, what is this? They're like, oh, it's just some after school program. They're like,
So they're kind of just like dismissive about it, like, it's just
yeah. They're like, it's just an after school program.
Ah.
They just sit in the library every Wednesday for about an hour, 2 hours, and yeah, that's all they do. I was like, oh, well, I don't think I want to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I never ended up joining it in high school.
Oh no!
But going into Colorado Mountain College, I saw the TRIO program and then looked into it more myself.
Uh-huh.
And I saw that their program, or what TRIO does, is that they primarily help minoritized students, like, get a foothold in their future.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah.
And I ended up joining the TRIO program at Colorado Mountain College, and I met my TRIO advisor there. She was definitely like one of the most influential and impactful people while my time at Colorado Mountain College. She's the reason why I'm here on this podcast today and at Colorado State University.
Would you like to give a shout out?
Yeah, I would love to do that. Love to get a shout out to Hetsamani Hamond. You really helped me out and just set me on the right path. And although you're not there at that specific campus, like, I still very much am still connected with her and do talk to her every now and then.
Oh, that's amazing.
And catch up.
So hopefully let her know that you're on the podcast, and when this episode publishes, she's listening to it. So awesome. How long were you there for, Pablo, at the CMC?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was there for 2 years. So I started my associates in fall of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, spring 2020 was...
was something else.
That was a very interesting time. The first half of the spring semester, everything was normal, and then boom.
Suddenly it wasn't.
Suddenly, we just have extended spring break.
Oh, wow.
And, all our classes are online now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
How quick were you able to adapt to that, to the new online college delivery?
Mm-hmm. It took a little bit of time, like, getting adjusted to that, especially because I didn't have a space to take classes online at my parents' home. Like, I remember at the start of the pandemic, I would often just do all my classes on my bed because that's the only place that I had. I'd be taking notes there, or like asking questions and all that, just doing the regular class stuff.
Yeah.
And like many others, I almost never had my camera on because it just felt awkward.
I think now employers and colleges are trying to incentivize to have people turn on their cameras, even though we're now hybrid, right?
Yep.
And CSU is now fully back on campus, but they're trying different methods to incentivize you to turn on your camera, which I find hilarious. Go ahead.
But yeah, like started August 2019. Oh yeah, and like a little side detail.
Yeah, go for it.
About my time at Colorado Mountain College, I did start a chess club.
A chess club?
Yeah, it was a chess club. I started it with a friend in fall 2019, and it was moderately successful. We got some people interested in it.
That's
some
good.
people that had never touched chess in their lives.
Wow.
Like, we taught them how to play, and the pandemic happened, and that just fell apart because we couldn't have like those meetings anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, like everything was just like overwhelming at the beginning. So then we didn't end up continuing it. So then my last year there was fall 2020 up through spring 2021. I definitely got more adjusted to like the classes and the online structure because a lot of the professors, they had the summer to kind of like figure out like, okay, how am I gonna deliver my content?
Right.
And how am I going to teach this course?
Right.
So it was definitely better in late 2020 in that fall semester.
Yeah.
And I went through all that and ended up graduating in spring 2021.
Wow.
And I guess another little side piece was that from that initial public speaking course that I took my first semester, that professor pushed me to take or to add on a major, and that major was in communication.
Oh wow. Okay.
So and he told me, I was like, oh hey, like if you want to add, you should add this major because you already took public speaking, and looking at your schedule, you'll only need to take one more class
Yeah.
to complete the major requirement. I'm like,
Sounds too good to be true though.
yeah. And it was too good to be true. I was like, yeah, one more class, that can't be too bad.
Yeah.
What was it like? Or one class equated to 3 credits, and lo and behold, it was not one class.
Oh no.
It was 9 more credits.
Oh my goodness.
So then I had to take an additional 3 more classes to fulfill the major requirements for that communication major. But by the time I had realized that it was more classes than I had hoped for, I was already a little deep in it, and I was like, well, I already started it. I'm already in this class. Might as well just finish it out.
You struck me as a person that always likes to just finish it, no matter what.
Yeah, like generally for most things, whatever I start, I want to finish. I don't want to leave anything unfinished. So yeah, so spring 2021 comes in, and I'm walking at graduation with an Associates of Science in Chemistry and then Associates of Arts in Communication.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Pablo. Obviously, your journey didn't end there. You transferred to Colorado State University. Who or what guided that decision?
So it was my TRIO advisor that led me to come to CSU. And I came on a transfer visit in fall 2019 to CSU. And before even coming on this transfer visit, I was actually thinking of attending a different university.
Oh, really?
Called Colorado Mesa University.
Oh, Colorado Mesa, yeah.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with that university, it's in Grand Junction, Colorado. So, and that university is only an hour away from my parents' home. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to be too far from my parents. I can see them almost every weekend if I'd like.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the revelations of coming here to CSU on that transfer visit was just mind-boggling.
Really?
Because I had visited the Colorado Mesa University campus, and I wasn't a very big fan of it, but I saw that as a way to just like continue and further my education. Coming on the transfer visit here, I was like, wow, I really like Fort Collins.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of these campus squirrels. And just in general, like most of the people, like if you go around campus and if you're just straight up confused, you can go up to almost any person and chances are they'll help you out.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you got the initial impression of CSU was very, very positive. You really liked the campus. Can you tell us, how did you learn about the AAC or the Academic Advancement Center, and how did you join?
Yeah, so with the AAC, so a little bit of context. At Colorado Mountain College, I worked in the TRIO program. I was a participant and an employee of the TRIO program, and I worked there as a kind of like a peer mentor, and I enjoyed doing that. So I was like, oh, I wonder if I can work at the TRIO program at CSU, and at a mere coincidence, well, before that even happened, or I even thought about working here, I was accepted into the Reicher Scholars Program, and one of the requirements for that scholarship is that you have to work 10 hours a week.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that pushed me more to think about like, oh, what am I going to do for a job?
Right.
So then that's when I started thinking about like, I wonder if I can work at the TRIO program at CSU.
Uh-huh.
I know I'm going to be a participant.
Yeah.
And another coincidence was that Tim Kafalas, I believe he is the assistant director for. Help me out here, Juan. He's the
assistant director for assessment and technology.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he sent out an email to incoming AAC participants, telling us like, hey, we have this job opening up as administrative support staff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm like, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I ended up applying, and I ended up working here at the AAC.
Awesome.
And while working here at the AAC, I met some very good friends and great retention specialists like Juan here.
Oh, thanks, Pablo.
And yeah, and as an employee, it definitely helped me out, be more involved as a participant.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I could see like all the different like workshops or drive opportunities and all the events that the AAC would host. I know one of the memorable ones that I've been to within my time here has been going to Meow Wolf, and so the conversion station in downtown Denver, and the networking dinner, or the networking dinners that they host annually.
Yeah. Right on. So I know I've already asked you this question, but you are about a week away from graduating, and I've asked this question so many times every time we meet, but one more time, how is it feeling for you? Has it sunk in that you're graduating?
Not quite. Like I almost tell everyone like, yeah, like I know it's coming, and it's a big milestone, and like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, it almost feels like just another event.
Yeah. Okay. What are your future plans, and what do you hope to do now that you're about to graduate? Like now, kind of seeing past graduation. Are there any plans for you?
Yeah. So originally, at the beginning when I got to CSU, I was still on the mindset about going to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I looked more into it, I wasn't a big fan of everything associated with like the admissions, being in medical school, and residency. So once you finish medical school, you have to go through a residency program, which is just like training you to become a doctor or a licensed doctor. And I realized maybe medical school isn't for me. And that's when I started thinking about like, okay, there's other ways to help people.
Yeah.
So then I started looking at other avenues within biology. And I found a pretty good interest in what's called mycology, and that's just like the study of fungi, which is mushrooms. And the world of fungi is immense. There's so much you can do. Like, for example, you can make biological biodegradable products out of fungi. Like, you can make shipping containers that mimic styrofoam, or mimic the material of styrofoam. So there's a sustainable way of shipping stuff out in the mail.
Yeah. And
there's also micro bricks. So it's like a brick, like a regular brick, but made out of mushrooms.
Wow.
And yeah, they both have like their whole like treatment process that they go through in order to make those products. Another thing is that there's a company, I can't remember what their name was, but they they invented and patented a way to pull oil out of or get oil spills out of water.
What?
So it almost kind of looks like a log, and they just throw it in the oil spill, and what the mushroom does is that it's going to be sucking up that oil and doing almost nothing to the water.
Wow, that's impressive.
And that's just like the sustainability side, because again, you can also make clothes out of fungi. Like you can put them through like a little treatment process and make fibers out of it, and from those fibers you can make clothes.
Whoa.
And one of the dreams that I have is to invent something that I can do with fungi, and I hope that it will help people in the long run. And yeah, that's just one aspect of what I want to do. And recently I've become very interested in just higher education in general. Like going through higher education, I've enjoyed it a lot for the most part. And throughout my journey, I've noticed that there's some things that could be improved. And one of the biggest things for me is having that transparency for students.
Absolutely.
Or like a go-to guide.
Absolutely.
For random questions you might have. Like there was a time where I was looking to extend my graduation, but at that time I had already completed, or that semester I was finishing up all my major requirements, and I was looking at possibly adding a minor to extend my graduation. But then I realized, or I went to the Office of Financial Aid, and they told me, "Oh, we can't offer you any financial aid because you already completed your major requirements."
Wow.
And financial aid at this university does not cover minors. I was like, that's super interesting and very helpful to know.
Yeah.
So just very obscure little details like that is what I want more people to know about.
That's wonderful.
I think it'd be super beneficial. It would have been beneficial for me to know about that, and I know it will be for other people in the future.
Absolutely.
And even just working here at the AAC, I've enjoyed a lot of what the Academic Advantage Center does, and Juan has had a huge impact on my journey, and I want to be that person for other students.
That's good, man. That's wonderful. And thank you for the wonderful compliment. I think you would be an outstanding advocate in TRIO programs or even in higher education. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so right now, like post-graduation, I have applied to a few jobs around the CSU community, just getting into student affairs, being like a scholar contact.
Yeah.
And we'll see where that takes me, or we'll see how that goes, because my overall goal is to go into a PhD program in higher education, because I wholeheartedly believe that with a PhD I'll be able to have that influence to bring about those changes that I would want to see around the university.
Right on. What is one word you would use to describe yourself?
I would say disciplined.
Disciplined. All right. What advice do you have for students who are thinking about transferring to a different institution that are first generation?
Are you, by transferring to a different institution, are you saying like moving away from CSU?
Either they're either in a community college, or they could be at CSU, or they could be at a different institution, and they just like, I want to transfer somewhere else to get a different degree. So yeah, some advice there.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend for whatever area or major you're particularly interested in pursuing, do your research, because that's something that I did not do, and I got into, or the only reason that or one of the reasons that I got into the biology major here at CSU was because I wanted to explore other majors, or not other majors, but other concentrations within biology. And the same exact thing I did for Colorado in college. Biology was easy in high school, so I was like, biology can't be that much more difficult, right?
Right. Okay.
And I learned that it is a lot more difficult at the university level. Just with classes. I know here at CSU there is the infamous BMS 300, which is principles.
I've heard a lot about this.
Yeah. So it's principles of human physiology, and I've heard it from from one of my new mentors, Ryan Barone. He works as a VP for student success in the office of the provost. We were having a conversation, and he told me, "Hey, so what do you know about BMS 300? I see that you're a TA for it." It's like, how can we make this class better, because it's the most voted class in the entire university. And I almost failed that class myself.
So what was some feedback that you've shared with Ryan?
It was definitely like, I guess, having more resources available for students, and letting them know that getting help is okay.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of stigma around getting help in general, because I still think about that stigma that, like, oh, I don't need the help.
Right.
Even though I know I do. Just letting them know that they have that help, and that's mainly it in general.
All right. I know, Pablo, I know that you're running short of time because you've got another event to be at later this evening. So a couple more questions. What advice do you have for TRIO students? Any words of wisdom that you want to share with them on this podcast?
So I would say get out of your comfort zone, and be as involved as you can or want to be, because I know when I started getting involved, or more involved within just the activities on campus, I was like, wow, this is super cool. I wish I could do more of this, but unfortunately, I'm graduating. I know with the student government here at CSU, so the associated students of CSU, ASCSU, there was some very interesting elections, and it made me very excited to be part of those elections.
Yeah.
And made me want to become a candidate, but unfortunately I couldn't. So with that in mind, I would urge everyone to just get out of their comfort zone and get involved as you can. And just remember that you might not think that you're doing enough, but you are. And that's okay. And be sure to get that help, because I personally still struggle asking for help, but getting help is okay.
Yeah. Pablo, it's been a true pleasure to have you on this podcast. We're definitely gonna have to do a follow-up episode on you and see where you are maybe 6 months, 8 months from now.
Oh yeah.
So we do have a tradition on the Let's Talk Trio podcast where we have the guests sign off. Do you care to do the honors?
Oh yes, I'd love to. So, hi, this is Pablo Rosas, and I am a participant of the Academic Advancement Center, and will soon graduate from Colorado State University. I will say that TRIO does in fact work.
That was our guest, Pablo Rosas, from Colorado State University's Academic Advancement Center. As of this recording, is a graduate. Pablo, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your TRIO story. We hope to have him on again in about 6 to 8 months. Remember, if you would like to be on the Let's Talk TRIO podcast, or know a staff, advocate, or participant, or alumni, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Once again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Angelica Villalpando, Rosario Riley, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Felicia Rivera, Jaded Electronics, Student Access, and TRIOJoblists.com. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. I'd like to take a moment to thank our honorary members of the Let's Talk Trio podcast, Roderick Chambers, Tony Ho, Scott Kendall, and Susan Cramp. The Let's Talk Trio podcast team is John Russell, audio engineer, music producer and composer, post-production editor. Amelia Castañeda, script supervisor, marketing manager, social media manager, and producer. Juan Rivas, executive producer and host. This episode was recorded Thursday, May 4th, 2023. Remember to always exercise your right to vote. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and we will catch you on the next episode.